Good evening and welcome to the Success in the City. My name is Helen Webster and I'm with the lovely
Sandra Scott, and our invisible guest is coming shortly. We're waiting for the fabulous John Gibbo from Anfield Wrap and a good friend of ours, and we were very excited he's coming on the show, but he's just looking after the baby and then he'll be on in a minute.
And they always say never work with kids or animals, don't they? And I think his little boy, I think, is just having a bit of a meltdown, probably because he's coming on the show and he wants to join him or something like that. So John will appear in a bit. So we're going to carry on and we're just going to do our show. And then when John comes on, which he is just logging himself into the room now, I'm going to put him into the studio. Look at him, he's got a microphone.
Wow,
we're so live on air, Mr. Gibbons.
Now we've got royalty with us. We're not worthy.
Oh, John, we can't hear you.
Oh, you're that professional.
Look at you with your microphone. Connect with your audio. Oh, look.
He's used to Top Kit.
I know.
On StreamYard, he probably has a whole deck and everything.
He has people to do this for him now. He doesn't have to do this himself. Well, we'll carry on talking. No, John, we can't hear you yet. No.
Pipe in.
You know, on your little microphone thing.
We can't hear you.
Can you edit your mic settings? Something like that. Look at me trying to be all technical. I've no idea.
He runs a podcast.
I know, but he has like Boss Kit and Tex and all those techie people and all that sort of
stuff here. Simple folk. Okay. Anyway, let's carry on.
Okay, we can't hear. Oh, he's gone. He's gone and then he's going to come back in again. That's how what he thinks of us.
Yeah.
Okay. So, celebrating the kids, Stan. What kids have done amazing things this week?
Well, I have a young lady called Olivia who did very well today at 4:30, and I was absolutely made up with it because she's doing GCSE Spanish. She's in year 10. She had no confidence and she's done brilliantly. So I was really pleased with it. You all right, John?
Yes, apologies.
Hey, Gibbo in the house.
With your fancy microphone.
Yeah, it just shows the value of a good producer, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean? Normally I've got people making me sound great, and when it's left to myself, I'm not only late but then silent. So apologies to everyone.
We were just saying, John, you should never. They always say, don't they, never work with kids and animals. Yeah, but it's lovely to have you, and thank you so much for giving your time for us tonight. We are like a little bit excited because you're on a bit of royalty to us.
No, it's a real pleasure to be here. I love what you guys do together, and yeah, it's really nice to be asked. So thanks very much.
Well, it's people doing great stuff, isn't it, locally, which is what you're doing as well. So we're going to hear all about that, which I'm very excited about.
So amazing shout out to Olivia, who's doing his Spanish. Yeah. John, have you got any young people you want to shout out to?
Yeah, there's one particular. We got asked to get involved with an organisation called Thrive, who help sort of young people who are either sort of in school or just sort of leaving school in terms of getting them sort of more interested in work really, and showing them the opportunities that are out there. And I did a talk for them, and one young lad, his name was Paul Connor, he's 14 or 15, and he was just dead forward, but in a good way. He was asking me loads of questions and saying basically, how do I get your job and stuff like that. And then he said, well, I'm a writer. So we said, well, we'll write some stuff. And he's done some stuff with us and he's really good. So we started doing our previews for the cup games this year. And so his first one, we played Norwich last night and he did the preview on there. And yeah, he's doing really well. He's listening to the feedback from our editor and stuff like that. But it's not bad, is it? I can't remember if he's 14 or 15. So apologies, Paul, if he's listening. But yeah, writing the previews on the Anfield Wrap, it's okay. So he's great, and I just like the way he saw an opportunity and went for it, and threw himself in there and was brave and has done it and has done really well. So good on Paul.
Brilliant.
Well done, Paul. Yeah. How cool is that? What do you do? Oh, I work on a Saturday job. Oh, I just write things for the Anfield Wrap. How boss is that? That's amazing.
Yeah, it's all right, isn't it?
And it is a bit of a little dream come true sort of thing, isn't it? And that's we talk about the power of being inspirational, and you've gone in with your inspirational talk, and they've seen you, and they've thought, well, he's a local lad, and he can do this, so maybe I can. And as you say, very brave to ask, and well done, Paul. Amazing. And I'm going to give a shout out to Scarlett. So I turned up for Whack-a-Ball, and she come running over to me, and she said, Helen, I need to tell you something. And I said, okay. And she said, I can now do a one-handed cartwheel. So well done, Scarlett, for being able to do your one-handed cartwheel at the age of 7.
I could never do a two-handed cartwheel.
No, I couldn't. I've never been able to do it. Oh, so Di Cannon's in Spain, and she's poor. I'm sitting in a Spanish thunderstorm listening to this, and Di Cannon is one of my grown-up shout-outs. So I'm going to shout out to you in a bit, Di, because she just did an amazing thing this week, and I was like, that's like dead cool. So success of the week. What successful thing has happened to you this week, John? Could be anything. Little win for you.
In terms of for us, we were doing a project with someone out in Australia, and it's been quite difficult in terms of communicating, and obviously it's a video project as well, so you're trying to sort of talk together and communicate what you want, and obviously ideally you'd fly out there, but for a variety of reasons you can't do that. So it's battling the sort of time differences and working with someone who's very talented at what they do, but not necessarily experienced at sort of creating video about it, if that makes sense. But we work with her, and our video guys have worked with her really closely, and she's just sent a load of stuff through the first stuff, like, is this all right? And it's absolutely brilliant what she's done. So it just feels like a huge sort of success, really. And it's good, isn't it? Because I think, over the last 18 months, we've all learned sort of new ways of working and things like that, and realised, that the world could be, a small place, really, but then the world could be sort of a big place at the same time. And I think, doing this project, with her and seeing the stuff sort of come back and how good it is and how sort of keen she is. And I mean, she's based in Melbourne, and they've just had earthquakes and everything, and she's and they're doing very extreme lockdowns, so she can only travel for 5 miles from her house. But she's done this like amazing piece of work for us, and we're so pleased. So I'm really excited for everyone to kind of see this project, and when it's all done, I'll send it over and you'll see what I mean.
Brilliant. So when's the project out? Are you allowed to say, or is it?
Well, I'm not sure, to be honest with you. There's 3 stages, and this is the first one. So so she's done her bit, so it's up to us now. The next bit's in Liverpool, so that's up to us now. So it'll be sometime this year.
Amazing. San, what success have you had this week?
Well, it's sort of not me personally, but I'm delighted because me lad graduated and finished his degree. And we never thought he was going to have a graduation, and you have to collect the degree in person. And he went to uni in Venice. So he was like, I'm not going back for it. But I was fuming. And I went, no, you need your degree and all the rest of it. Anyway, he's got a graduation ceremony now. So I'm really happy in October. And I've got the flights today. And we're getting together, thrilled to bits. So I'm made up. And it's got me I didn't know if it was going to happen at all. So I'm thrilled. So that's really cool.
Brilliant. So amazing. And so my success is that we were able last week to go and take Lou, and I think we spoke about it on the Wednesday night, but we did Wednesday, Thursday, Friday with Lou, our interactive playground, and the young people who started to work with us came along, and they spent the week with us as well, and they were just boss. They were just amazing, weren't they? And I was saying to them, it feels like we've only known each other for they've only known each other for sort of 10 days working with each other. And it was like that they've worked with each other forever. And you just think, how cool is that these young people are all working together and stuff. So it was fab. So a big shout out to them. And it was just a massive success that we were able to get out and about and stuff.
Yeah, I loved the Thursday there. It was really good. And you got to have a go on a unicycle.
I did. Although that is like, so unicycles I thought, when you freewheel on a bike, unicycles don't, the fixed wheel. So we had like 2 tables, and then you got on it in between the 2 tables, and then you had to sort of like try and balance. So I could balance, but I couldn't move forward and backwards. But I think if I had one, I think if I had one after a couple of weeks, I'd nail the unicycle. It's like, yeah. So, John Gibbo is with us. We're going to find out loads more about you. But first, John, we're going to play this or that. Okay. So, I'm going to ask you and Sandra's going to ask you and I. Okay. Are you going first, San, or me?
I'll go first today, if you like.
Go on, then.
Okay. Barcelona or Paris Saint-Germain as teams?
Oh, Barcelona.
Okay.
100% Barcelona for me as well. What about you, San?
Paris Saint-Germain, because I adore Paris. And I taught this kid who was obsessed with them, and he sort of got me into it, and he was a cracking kid, and he just loved them and everything. And they've just signed Lionel Messi as well, haven't they? So there we go.
Yeah,
what about you, Helen? You said Barcelona.
Oh, Barca, yeah. Barca all the way, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Klopp with his glasses or without his glasses? John Gibbo.
I still can't get used to it. I'm with. I still can't get used to it. Although I saw someone tweet before that we're unbeaten without the glasses. So maybe there's something in that. But I'm still, I'm not huge on change. So I'm still with.
Yeah. What about you, San?
With yeah. Glasses make people look dead clever. Yeah, with.
Oh yeah, Di Cannon says with as well. I keep on looking at him and thinking, you forgot something. He just doesn't look right, does he? Without it. Well, somebody was saying that it's because he smashes so many pairs of glasses because he gets so excited and flings them. Is why he's had his eyes done. So yeah, go on, San.
Okay. Switzerland or Spain?
Oh, I think. Got to go for sunny Spain, I think. Sunny Spain. See, I always think about football in any way, so I was thinking, Switzerland, that's Ball, and we lost in Ball in the final in the UEFA Cup, whereas we won in Madrid, you see. So I just immediately start thinking about that, which shows how my mind works. So Liverpool won in Madrid, lost in Ball, so I'm going for Spain.
Yeah, and I'd go for Spain because I can speak Spanish. I don't speak Swiss.
I'd go for Spain, but it's the finest line.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay, your go.
Okay. To win the Champions League or the Premiership?
Oh, that's so hard. Do you know what?
I know.
I think because I was always the league because it's been so long. But I think now we've got one. I think the Champions League is the pinnacle, I think. So I'm going to go now. I'm surprised at myself saying these words, to be honest with you, Helen.
John.
But Champions League, just because that feeling when you win it is like nothing else. So I'm going to go Champions League.
Okay, mine's a not dissimilar question, actually. The Euros.
Hang on, Son, you haven't answered the question yet.
Champions League, hands down.
Well, and I'm a bit like you, John. I think, the Premiership is amazing, and it shows that you're really good. But I think the sort of theatre of the Champions League, isn't it, a little bit more, with like the travelling and the countries, and I think the atmosphere of the Champions League in Anfield is just, So I'd go Champions League as well. I think now we've won. Go on, Sam.
Straight in there with me question. I beg your pardon. So the Euros or the World Cup?
Oh, the World Cup. I think the World Cup's just got that bit more glamour, and it's got Brazil. So I'm going to go for the World Cup.
Okay. World Cup, hands down. When we used to play Sabutio, we never played the Euros. We played, and we used to fight to be Brazil in playing Sabutio. Yeah, so 1,000,000% World Cup, and it's a better trophy. What about you, Sam?
World Cup, because I think it's hilarious the way some players go and get mental haircuts specifically for the event.
Okay, my last one. Unicycle or stilts, John?
Oh, I think I'd have more success on stilts. I think, but I'd love to go. I'd love to be good at a unicycle. So I'm going to say unicycle for the one. If I could perfect, I'd be made up.
Yeah. I need clarification. So stilts, as you buy them, are like poles with things that stick out the side. When I was a kid, and
not the plant pots that you stand on.
Oh, the cans. That's what I was going to say. With string, they were ace. They're dead easy. Them like that.
Yeah, you're not a puppet. I mean, the proper big massive stilts that you get on and you see them walking with the big stilts.
The proper big massive one. No, the foot high ones. Stilts. That's the way if I'm falling. That's all I'm saying.
I'm going unicycle all the way. So Rachel Walker, who knows John Gibbo as well, is listening in. And James is watching. So James is now 3.5, and he says, "Hi, Auntie Helen, love James." So blow kisses to James. Mwah. Okay, and to Hannah as well. If she's awake, she might be asleep. So yeah. So now have we done this or that? Have you done your three?
Done right through, yeah.
Okay. So we're going to introduce the inspirational John Gibbo. So lots of people already know who John Gibbons is, but John Gibbo and I met a long, long time ago when he was working for somebody else. Okay, and he was massive Liverpool fan, and travelled with playing music and things like that, and an amazing musician as well as and Alan Telfer, who's another friend of ours, said he said if you carry on working for, what did he say, John? What was his quote?
He said, "Follow your dreams, or you'll spend your life working for someone else who has." It was something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah. Follow your dreams, or and I remember you coming in and saying, "That's it, I'm going." And I think your first place that you went to was New York, and you went playing in the band in New York, and it was like, "What's he doing?" And it was just crazy, and it was just like amazing that you just said, "Right, I'm going to take that leap of faith," and off you went. And the Anfield Wrap sort of grew, and we'll find out loads more about it. And it was just absolutely amazing. So we're going to hand it over to you, Mr. Gibbo, and you're going to tell us all about yourself and the Anfield Wrap. And also, I've got this in front of me that way. And I remember John gave me this, and it's signed. I've got it signed there. It's signed. And I remember walking past Waterstones and going, "Oh my God, it's in the Waterstones window." And I was like dead excited for him. So tell us all about your book and everything else, John. So over to you.
Thank you. What an introduction. Yeah, so it is funny. You mentioned the music there, Helen, because I'd sort of, maybe forgotten a little bit. And when I did sort of leave my job, and I do have to say as well, I really liked working with it. I did the work for a market research company and enjoyed it, and enjoyed the role, enjoyed the networking and stuff, how we know each other, and was sort of, perfectly happy. But I was doing all this other stuff as well, and so I was doing music stuff, both playing and promoting, and then there was the football stuff, which was the Anfield Wrap, which was then primarily a podcast. There now was a sort of YouTube channel, obviously big social media sort of presence as well, and sort of lots of other new media sort of things, and that was going well. The music stuff was going well, and my career was going well as well. But you were doing sort of big long hours, between sort of everything really. And I just thought, could I basically, if I had a proper go at the other stuff, could I sort of make a living off that really? And so, I had a word with I can't remember whether she was a girlfriend or my wife at that point. It was around
she was
the time
only your girlfriend, John. She was only your girlfriend, yeah. And she was working away, wasn't she, on the ship?
She was on cruise ships, yeah. So I remember being on the ship and saying, like, I'm thinking of doing this, and I'd done some sums and said, well, if I earn enough money from this and I earn enough money from this, and there was 3 or 4 different things that maybe I will be all right type thing. And she said, yeah, go for it, if it's what you want to do. And and stuff like that. And so at that point, I wasn't necessarily expecting the Anfield Wrap to sort of explode how it was really. I just thought, well, if it can do okay, and the other stuff. And as you say, Helen, which I've forgotten, the first thing I actually did was went on tour with a band in America. We did loads of shows over there, and it was the kind of thing I would have had to turn down, with work, because you only get so many holidays and stuff, sort of quite rightly. And I think this was a thing that another thing we're saying, well, that's the kind of thing we're normally like, well, you can't just go off for the band for 10 days or whatever in America, if you've got a job. But then I could, and then we went to, and then immediately came back, and then went to South Africa, because my wife had come off the ship, so she had a bit of a break. We had a friend in Cape Town who wants to sort of speak to me about maybe sort of doing a business opportunity with him. So we went out there, and I thought, oh, this is great, you know what I mean? But obviously that can't sort of last forever, to sort of fly it off all over the place. But the Anfield Wrap, we had been just a free podcast, and we had an idea around this point that maybe people would pay for more. So we would do a free show on a Monday and a radio show on a Friday. We were actually on Radio City Talk every Friday at tea time, and that was great. And then, but the idea was well, if we gave people something every day, would they pay for it? And then sort of podcasts were quite new and quite sort of fresh, and there wasn't really a model. And now there's quite a few models where things like Patreon, and you'll see quite a lot of podcasts saying, oh, you know, £2-3 a month or whatever on Patreon, and you can get more. But back in 2014-15, it wasn't really sort of the case. So we were sort of jumping into the unknown a bit and being brave, but we just felt that we've been going sort of 4 years now. We've actually just celebrated 10 years of the Anfield Wrap, but so that was really nice. But this was sort of 4 years in, when it had just been sort of running along as a hobby effectively, and so we kind of felt, well, will people pay for it? And we sort of felt they would, and I was say we felt we built up enough loyalty over those 4 years to people to do so. And then sorry, I feel myself getting darker here. I'll turn the lights on there when we get a chance.
Where are you?
And then they did, and that was sort of great. And so they came on board sort of straight away. And I sort of remember that first night where we pressed sort of go, and we went to the pub, like, basically because there was nothing else we could do, and my friend had the sort of the orders, if you like, sort of coming through on the computer, and he was just seeing them come in and saying, oh, what in this country, and they were just sort of all flying in, and it was great. And then we just thought, yeah, we're onto something here. And so very quickly I sort of went full time on that, really, and everything, and all the other plans got pushed aside, and then we realized, you know, we not just had enough work for us, but enough work for other people as well. So started employing people, which is great, and now there's 13 of us full time.
Which is amazing, isn't it? The growth to get off 13 staff within a short space of time is amazing.
Right, you've got the light on because you are getting really dark now. And Diane Cannon says, I think
he's taking his earphones out now, so he can't hear us.
Yeah, my nephew listens. Yeah, he's way too professional, isn't he? For us? Diane Cannon says, my nephew listens to the Anfield Wrap over in Maryland. True Red and never misses it. So, and I've got a friend in New Zealand who listens to it. So it's just international, isn't it?
Yeah, over 90 countries we've clocked in terms of downloads, which is incredible, and yeah, in terms of subscribers, I think it's around sort of 60 in terms of people who are sort of paying us every month. So yeah, it's incredible, and a lot of Scousers have moved away, but like having that sort of feeling of home. But obviously a lot of international fans as well that sort of Liverpool have got, and we sort of know that, and we've been able to travel quite a lot, sort of alongside the club. I'm careful not to say the club. It sounds like we're on the team playing. We're not quite there yet, but like when Liverpool do sort of pre-season tours and things like that, we always go over as well, and do sort of live shows and events, and you see the passion that is there for the football club and the city as well. It has to be said, sort of all around the world. And yeah, it's really amazing. It's incredible to sort of, you know, to witness these people who are thousands of miles away from you or your city, but have the same love for this team. It's incredible.
Because you went over to was it Sydney that you went? I think one of your very early ones. You went over to Sydney, didn't you? And you were interviewing the team in Sydney, which was like, and we were all like, "Gibbo's not here. He's in Sydney, like interviewing the team." It was like, what? Yeah,
well, that was when I was still working full time with David Murray, and still sort of there doing that, and so that was just having to take a holiday to go off. So we did some live shows. It was summer of 2013. And we went to Sydney and Melbourne, and then in Melbourne we managed to get an interview with Brendan Rodgers, who was Liverpool manager at the time, and that was the first active manager of Liverpool that we sort of interviewed, and we'd had a word with the club and said, we're here, any hopes, and then they helped us out, and the club have been brilliant with us sort of ever since then, really. You know, that was 2013, and as I say, we weren't professional then by any stretch of the imagination. We were sort of trying, you know, our best to sort of build something up, and as I say, I was still sort of working full time. That was my summer holiday that year over sort of Sydney and Melbourne.
Pretty cool summer holiday to have, isn't it? You know,
we did a live show. We did a live show in Melbourne, and we sold out 1,100 tickets because right at the time, the Liverpool themselves weren't doing big events around the games. They were just going out and playing the games, and I think selling merch, and then sort of going home. And then I think they clocked what we did, and then went, well, right. So ever since then, they started, you know, putting their own events on, and they get you sort of Webster out and all that. Yeah. But that's fine. We get involved in the stuff they do now as well, so it's all good. It was funny going off. Yeah, so we're interviewing Brendan Rodgers and doing these live events in front of over 100,000 people, and then on Monday you're back at work in your suit and yeah, doing spreadsheets. It was a funny thing when it was both going on at the same time. Looking back now, like, yeah.
Yeah. And what's the best thing you've done so far?
I think
with the Anfield Wrap.
I think so. A couple of summers ago, we did the US tour with the club, and that was incredible because that was when we started doing events together. So, as I say, we started doing our events first, and then they sort of went, "Oh, right, okay." So they started doing it. Then it was always competing and going on the same time, and it was a bit sort of frustrating, really. So, a couple of years ago, we just said, "Well, why don't we do stuff together and do stuff really big?" And that was great. And so that's what we did a couple of years ago. So we did New York, Chicago, and Boston. And there was a 24 hours in Boston where we did a live event in the House of Blues, which was 2,000 people, and then got up the next day and interviewed Jurgen Klopp in his hotel in Boston, like a little bit hungover, but obviously and then went to the game that day in Fenway Park, which is an iconic stadium, and so that. As 24 hours go, that was sort of, pretty cool, really, to do this huge event in as I say, in the House of Blues, and then to wake up the next day, jump in the shower quickly, then go and interview Jurgen was a pretty cool sort of evening and morning. I do have to say.
Brilliant.
I think mine just froze.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So, John, when you started, so you were writing the book, which was the 13-14 season. What was the inspiration for writing the book?
I don't know, really. I think we just thought it'd be fun. I've never sort of seen myself particularly as a writer. So the Anfield Wrap's always had the website, so with written stuff, and then the podcast, and then we've got like video as well. I love the podcast, I love audio, and I love, that sort of way of sort of storytelling, but also sort of bouncing off each other, really. Sitting down and writing has never sort of massively been my thing. But me and Neil, who did it together, who's the main host at the Anfield Wrap, we just loved that season, that 13-14 season. They didn't quite win it, unfortunately, but it was they were never meant to be anywhere near there. Do you know what I mean? It was never meant to be a year where Liverpool, had any chance. I think they'd finished 7th or 8th the year before, but they just went on this amazing run, and it was just sort of incredible, really. And we were writing stuff as we were going, and then we thought, well, maybe we could use that and then some sort of new stuff as well, and sort of have a combination of what we'd done at the time, but what we'd done sort of retrospectively. And I think we just thought it'd be nice and it'd be quite cool, as you say. And I remember when it was in the window in Waterstones, let me tell you as well, Helen, it was sort of quite a thrill, really. And so I think it was just sort of seeing what we could do and seeing, what would be enjoyable, and yeah, a bit of like, well, wouldn't it be cool to have a book? So let's do a book. I'm sort of like that a bit, really, to be honest with you. I don't sort of, necessarily look for, oh, maybe I'll do this book and it'll lead to this. No. I just sort of say yes to things, and I always sort of have, really. And so when Neil said, should we do a book? I'm like, yeah, that'd be brilliant. Let's do a book. And so we did it, and it was great, and it was a really nice thing, to have done, and I'll always have it over there. So when my little boy's a bit older, he might think it's quite cool. I don't know. He probably won't, because no one thinks that dad's cool, do they?
I don't know. I think you're up there. I think you've got like a few brownie points there, haven't you? Do pretty cool stuff, isn't it? Yeah. Oh. You going, Sam? Oh, sorry, Sam. I thought you were ready to say something. Sorry.
Well, I am. So, okay. Sorry.
Go on.
I've always got questions, but I know we've got so much to ask you. But I thought another highlight might be when you went to Madrid and you were on the stage.
Yeah, so that was a pretty cool 24 hours as well, I must say, because we talked before about the other stuff. But so a year earlier we'd got asked to get involved in the fan parking in Kiev, and again, credit goes to Liverpool Football Club, because they've always sort of trusted us to, when they've asked us to do stuff, to sort of get on with it. So whenever we've interviewed, Jurgen or any of the players or whatever, they never sort of ask what you're going to say or sort of say you can't see this, can't see that. They sit you down, and there's always someone sat there in the background. Don't get me wrong, but they do trust you to sort of get on with it, and because they sort of recognise what we do and sort of trust us, and that's built up over time, like any relationship is, really. But we've been fortunate with that, and it was the same with the live events, and do more and more live events, with Liverpool. I think they thought, well, we've got these fan parks and, we could, do our own, put it together ourselves, but doesn't it make more sense to ask the people who were doing stuff for fans all the time? So us, and then obviously the guys who do the boss nights and stuff like that, who've been putting on gigs for Liverpool fans for years, asking them to do stuff. So we did Kiev and that was good, but then Madrid was just another level because, it was bigger. We were there. We got there the night before that time instead of like about 10 minutes before in Kiev, which I think it was, and sort of running on stage. And so how it sort of worked really was, we played some music and did some talk about like how Liverpool had sort of got there. So the journey to Madrid, if you like. And so it was me and Neil again, 5 years on from the book release, but still doing cool things together. So me and Neil sort of did that really. But then we had quite a lot of the other Anfield Wrap gang sort of about and enjoying it and things like that. But it was me and Neil. So how it works is I'd sort of took care of the music. So I was playing tunes that I knew that the people are like and tunes, linked to some of the songs and stuff like that, and stuff. And then Neil sort of did most of the talking on stage. But the coolest part about that, that's actually a hard thing. Maybe what was another cool thing that came out of it though was because I was doing the music and everyone sort of knew that they needed a DJ for the party after the game. So they were like, well, John's got his decks with him, he can do it. And so they asked me to DJ at the party after the final, which was again incredible. I only found out about a week or so before, and actually on the same day that they asked me to do it, we interviewed Kenny Dalglish as well. So, it's amazing how these things kind of come together. I got asked to do it in a meeting and then I had to walk over back to our office to interview Kenny. But because we were doing loads of European Cup build-up and Kenny's obviously scored a goal in the European Cup final. So we were sort of asking him all about that. So we did the fan park and then we went to the game and Liverpool won and then. But I had to say goodbye to everyone because they'd only give us one ticket. They wouldn't I was like, "Can I get all my mates in?" And they were like, "No." So I was playing all the tunes while the team were getting drunk and celebrating the European Cup, which was again, a magnificent sort of 24 hours. Really, I do feel like very fortunate to have had these opportunities. Because
do you sometimes pinch yourself and think, "Am I alive at this time?"
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, no, you do, because I've been really lucky, do you know what I mean? I've been fortunate. It's been, partly sort of right place, right time sort of stuff, partly, because you give things a go, but you never sort of know how you're going to work out, really. Yeah. Obviously, I mentioned before with Liverpool and how sort of good they've been with us and things like that. And so that helps, whereas other football clubs aren't as, close with sort of fan media and things like that. So, but no, you do pinch yourself. And I remember there was a moment where I was DJing at this party and I was on sort of a stage and Virgil was on the dance floor in front of me and he had like the European Cup in one arm and a bottle of champagne in the other. And he just sort of leant back onto the stage just to like sit down and take all in. So he's right in front of me. And I remember thinking then like, this is surreal. This is like, because I grew up on I remember sitting on my own for hours watching Liverpool videos when I was a kid, and my dad bought me them all. I was just watching. I remember all the stories of the European Cup finals then.
Yeah.
And we weren't even in Europe then. Do you know what I mean? It was late 80s, early 90s. So there'd been the ban, but then even when the ban finished, Liverpool weren't good enough to get in. And so these were like, Liverpool, talking about Liverpool playing in Rome and all this, like it might as well have been on Mars. Do you know what I mean? It seems sort of so far away. And I remember, hearing the fan stories of, jumping on the trains and going down and, all this and thinking, I wonder what that would be like. And imagine if I'll ever have stories like that. And then now I've got these stories that are like, unbelievable, really. So I do pinch myself a lot, and I do feel very fortunate.
But I do think that's, you've got all these cool, amazing stories and things like that, but you do work incredibly hard, and you've worked really, really hard before all of this. You were saying like, it was 4 years in the making and stuff like that. And, you go out and about, and Mick Ellenson's listening and he says, Gibbo is the man. My Ben thinks Gibbo is the best thing since sliced bread. He is, though. And that's our football with Ben. It's his dad. And, and I was just going to bring, so Ben was our very first guest on this show, Football with Ben. And you know, he's a massive Liverpool fan. And when he was starting off, we'd arranged to come down, and you'd kindly said that he could come and see the Anfield Wrap and have a little tour and stuff. And then obviously COVID hit, and he couldn't. And you were like super cool, and you were dead kind, and you said, you know what, he can interview me online. And we went, and it was really funny because we went down to, I picked him up, and then we went to Costa, which was underneath the studio before we come up, and Nico was in Costa. And as we drove up in the car, Ben went, "There's Nico," and I was like, "No, mate, I said they played last night." I said, "It won't be him." And he goes, "It is, it is." And then we went into Costa, and it was, and he had his photograph taken with him. And then we walked up the stairs, puts the computer on, and then John's there. And he interviewed you, John, didn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, he was great. He's a boss kid. I still sort of watch his channel now. I love all the little, you know, the tours of the stadiums and all that. They're really cool. And then the match stuff, you know, he's going to retire us all. That's the problem. Do you know what I mean? In a few years, like when his channel will be bigger than mine, so I won't be as kind to him then. But yeah, no, he's doing boss, and that's how we started. You know what I mean? It's like it's just having a bit of a passion and having a bit of a go. And I think it's important to remember, you know, how you started, isn't it? And the people who've helped you out or done a nice thing for you sort of along the way, really. So I'll always help anyone I can, really, because, you know, I was that person who was, you know, trying to explain to people what the Anfield Wrap was, you know, at one point, and say, "Can I have an interview, or will you do this for us?" So yeah, no, but he's a good kid, and his channel's doing really well.
And you know, you said you're very fortunate, which obviously you are, but you created the opportunities yourself, didn't you? And you were saying, like, you simultaneously had your job, and you were doing that all weekend, and in work on Monday, doing spreadsheets in a suit, etc. And it's that effort that people don't see. And anything that you've created, that one creates oneself, if you like, that you create yourself, it does take that effort, but a lot of people don't realize it, you know. But, you know, you have one go on the planet, that's it. And as you say, you've written your book, and it's just great to take every opportunity you can, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm very sort of yes to everything, and sometimes, you know, have to be careful with balance and things like that. Especially now, I've got a little boy, and, you know, you want to sort of be at home and be a good dad and things like that. But generally speaking, you know, I'll never not do anything out of like fear, or, you know, and I do get people say to you, "Oh, do you get nervous?" I'm like, yeah, all the time. Do you know what I mean? But I always want to do the thing more than the nerves, and so I'll always sort of throw myself into stuff, really. So anytime I've ever sort of, you know, had a big interview, or even, you know, done the DJing or something like that, there was part of me thinking, oh, maybe they should ask someone else, you know what I mean, someone better or whatever, or someone who knows what they're doing a bit more, or who's got better equipment. But then I was like, well, why would they give the opportunity to someone else? You know what I mean? It's like, and then they get to come on Success in the City podcast.
I was going to say, were you nervous before you come on here today?
Well, no, because we're old friends, aren't we? You know what I mean? So I knew you two would look after me, so it was sort of okay today. But I think so. I get nervous about stuff, and I get kind of, you know, do get worried, but I always sort of want to do the thing more, and so that's sort of how I've always been able to sort of, you know, have the sort of the experiences I have, I think. But also, as you say, Sandra, it's you know, it's working hard, it's putting it in, it's making sure that, you know, whatever it is that you decide to do with your life, or you know, whatever it is that you throw all yourself into it. And people are always surprised, you know, how hard we do work. You know, you mentioned there, you know, when I had the sort of job and everything, but still now, you know, where we, you know, whenever anyone comes to see us, you know, comes to the office, you know, or comes away with us. It's funny when people, because we'll go away, if Liverpool are playing away in Europe or whatever, we'll take 3 or 4 people and we'll go out. And sometimes, like, one of my friends will say, "Oh, I'll tag along with you." And then after a few hours, they're like, "I can't believe how much you're doing." You know, we're arranging things, we're recording things, we're sorting things out, we're, you know, we're speaking to people, you know, when we get there, we'll do this and stuff, because we want to make the most of it, because, you know, it's quite a lot of money to send 3 or 4 people over to Spain or whatever, to Madrid for a game and stuff. So you want to make sure that you're getting the big value for it. So everyone's always really, like, sort of surprised. I think they think, you know, oh, we're just, you know, on the beers and press record every now and again and see what happens. But even on the US tours and things like that, you know, we're out late at night, you know, at events and stuff, and then you're up early the next day and you're going, and it's full pack. But it is brilliant, and it's great fun, and, you know, it does feel like work. You know, I don't believe these people who say, "Oh, you know, if you love it, it doesn't feel like work." It does. You know what I mean? It feels like work every day, because it's hard, but it's still brilliant, and I'm still very, very fortunate.
Oh, we're getting
So are you still doing music wise? Are you still doing anything musically, or do you just not have the time
Yeah,
now?
not as much, Helen. Unfortunately, it is a time thing, and I still manage a band called the Shipbuilders, and they're doing well, and so I try and help them out as much as I can. Really, playing wise, I don't do a lot. I tend to do a couple of things at Christmas. A couple of
Because tell everybody what you play. So for the people who don't know, because I would say most people will sit there and so Stan, if you don't know what John plays, what musical instrument would you think that he would play?
Keyboards.
That's interesting. I did used to play piano when I was younger, but I wasn't very good. So stopped. Now I'm a trumpet player, so I play trumpet. Yeah. Well, trumpet's a nice instrument because you get loads of there's a lot of variety in terms of what you can do, and so you could do sort of jazz stuff or more like orchestra stuff or bands. Like I'm always after like brass. So I did really well really from like rock bands basically who wanted brass sections and I'd play, but I'd also know other people who could sort of rope in really. So I do some stuff every Christmas with Ian Prowse, who does Amsterdam, and every year we do a big gig at the Philharmonic, and so I still do that because it's playing in the Philharmonic halls just an absolute joy, and so I think I'll do that till I'm 80. Or till Ian's 80, or till Ian's 80, whatever comes first. And he'll probably go till he's 90, to be fair. But still do that. But aside from that, I haven't got as much time to do it anymore. But that's fine. I remember, remember when I was younger and sort of the experiences and stuff like that, and that's fine with me. It's someone else's go on all that.
Where's the best place that you've played then? Or where's your most enjoyable place that you've played?
In terms of played, so I remember doing a gig on my birthday in Brooklyn in New York, and that was really cool. It was a venue called the Knitting Factory, and there was 3 or 4 acts on the bill, and it was like a sort of this British invasion kind of thing. The Sound City put on, and we did a few shows, and then there was a few bands who were going off to do sort of South by Southwest at Austin who did sort of this stop on the way, and yeah, I remember that being a really, really special day, sort of waking up on my birthday in America and thinking I'm going to go and do a gig tonight in Brooklyn, and so that was a really special one. But yeah, sort of played all over, really been lucky, to be asked to do some stuff. We did some really cool gigs in Utah around the in Salt Lake City around the film festival, Sundance Film Festival. We got asked to go and do some stuff over there, so it was like an album launch, and the label wanted to sort of tie it in with the Sundance Film Festival, because it was an American label, so they were like, "We'll come over." So we did some really cool shows out there, and that was Pity Boss as well, because it's a beautiful part of the world. So that was good. So yeah, I've been fortunate, with music as well, really. But you need to play all the time.
Would you like to be? Yeah, you have to keep on practicing. Would you, if your dream could sort of allow it, would you rather be like sort of a professional musician or Mr. Anfield Wrap?
No, what I'm doing now, I think, what I'm
This
doing
is what
now,
you wanted to.
is being a musician's funny because there's loads of like sitting around. There's loads of like kind of I don't know. A lot of it's quite boring, to be honest with you. Like, so if you think about like going on tour, for example, so I can make it all sound like cool and stuff. You're in all these cities, but it's a lot of like sitting on tour buses. It's a lot of you'll sound check at 5 or 6 o'clock, and then you won't be playing till 9 or 10, and then you're like, oh, what can we do? And then so you end up getting on the beer or getting some food or something, and so like and then doing stuff in the studio. I always found like really, really dull, playing the same thing over and over again until like this producer's got this magical take in his head. Whether the first one was probably fine, do you know what I mean? They're just getting paid to sound clever, and so I think like it's like being an actor. When people say like people see a film or whatever and don't see the fact that they've probably done the same scene for like 2 days and stuff. Like music with bands and stuff's a little bit like that, really. Whereas now I love podcasts because you press record and then you talk and then you press stop and then it's out. Do you know what I mean? And then you're on to the next thing, and that suits me more. I think I'm quite a fast-paced sort of person, really, and so that's what kind of suits me. So I always like to be doing new things and pushing myself, and so what I'm doing now suits me a little bit more, really. I mean, that half an hour when you are playing on stage is an unreal feeling. But the rest of the time is well, moving between hotels.
John, when Helen and I have our singing lessons and are finally able to belt out a tune, because neither of us can sing a note, you'll be able to play the trumpet alongside us.
Yeah, we could do. What did think you? They didn't do karaoke. They did with the live band. Rockyoke it was, wasn't it? And they had like a proper band. And then you basically said, I want to sing this song. And you got up and sang, but it was like a live band. So like, it wasn't sort of, karaoke with the words. It was like a proper band playing. So maybe incredible. we could get the band, and then you and I can get up and the place is just empty.
On the harmonica.
Yeah. So I want to learn the harmonica, John. That's me. I want to learn it.
Yeah.
So I can just fit it in my pocket, whip it out, do a bit of a tune, and put it back
in. Wonder, or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd love to hear it. So let me know how you go, Helen, and when you perfected it. I would. I'd love to hear this.
I'll come and play for you, John.
So we've got Mick Ellison, who's Ben's dad's, put a comment on, hasn't he? He says, thank you. He's gained so much confidence from you, Helen and Sandra. Anfield Wrap lads are great. And I always watch and follow Gareth on Twitter. Boss lads, so grounded. And can I just say, you've got the coolest office in the city as well. And is that where Ben says hello, by the way? And did Ben get to see your office? Because it's just the best office.
He's coming in October, isn't he, Helen? On his half term, he's coming in. Right. I think I just texted before actually, just said I will do the Tuesday because you give me a few dates. So yeah, he's finally able to come in. So we'll give him a bit of a tour, and I'll interview him this time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We'll switch it up.
I haven't told him yet. He doesn't know.
So we're gonna reverse it. Yeah, so we'll reverse it.
He's been doing a podcast with a gang of lads, which is Refspect. So it's about respecting the referees and things. And he's been going to like little podcast lessons in a little group, and their podcasts are amazing. And it's from his very first podcast to now, he's just grown in confidence massively, and you can tell the way he presents and it's just great to watch, him. And my Uncle Ron's listening. And my Uncle Ron, he says it's a long way from the days of Little Stubbins, Taylor and Paisley, etc., and 9p in the boys' pen.
Yeah,
so it is. Yeah,
certainly is.
No pennies.
Yeah, I don't know what Mal Lee. It's Mal Lee. Maybe that's somebody that Anne's listening to us. But Anne says thank you. Anne's Ben's mum. And she says thank you. Yeah. So we've learned loads about John, and we could probably talk to you forever, John, but we have to carry on with our show. Okay. So red face moment. What's happened that slightly embarrassing, people can laugh along with, not at you? Has anything happened to you this week, Sam?
Well, normally I have loads, and some of the things I don't see as embarrassing because they're just part of my daily life, let's face it, but other people do. And I did have a client come in, it's only a third lesson with me, and spoke to her in completely the wrong language because I forgot what she was doing and thought she was doing Spanish when I was teaching her Italian, actually. And she looked at me really confused, and and I was like, she knows a bit already, she's coming like an advanced client. And then I looked at her face and I went, you're not doing Spanish, are you? You do Italian. just changed, and I went, I'm so sorry. And then just carried on. That's normal, really, for me. What about you, Helen?
No, I think I've been all right this week. I've sort of... I'm doing all right at the moment. I'm being quite... sorry. Mal Lee runs the Don't Cross the Line project, which Ben goes to, which is his podcast thing. So it's Don't Cross the Line project.
Podcasting as well.
Yes, that's it, John. He's after your title. So no, I think I'm all right. John, has anything embarrassing happened while you've been interviewing anybody or anything like that? But you are a true professional.
There's a funny thing from today, actually, in terms of just embarrassing stuff. We were on a barge boat today, looking at maybe doing some filming on there, and I managed to bang my head twice on the same thing walking out. So the first time I did it was like a little bit embarrassing, but everyone laughed, and the guy went, "Oh, everyone does that, don't worry." And then I went out, and then I came back in, and then I went out again and banged my head on the same thing again. And I thought, once you can get away with it, but twice. You're an absolute wally, aren't you? No, absolutely. In terms of interviewing people, I've never been I don't think I've ever sort of messed up too much in terms of interviewing people. I remember I was interviewing Ragnar Klavan once, and it was they do these mix zones and went on tours, and basically what that means is when the players come out the dressing room, they walk to the bus, and then there's the walkway one side, and then the media will stand the other, and you can try and stop them. And if they want to stop for the chat, they do it. If they don't, they sort of go on. So it's up to you and how charming you are, basically. And so I managed to get Ragnar Klavan to stop. He was a defender. He's moved on now. But you don't know who's going to stop. So you can't sort of prepare your questions or anything. You've got to sort of think on the spot a little bit, really, because you don't know who you're going to get. There's like 20 players or whatever. But Ragnar Klavan stopped. And so I couldn't think what to ask him. So I said, "Oh, do you like your song?" And I said, and he said, "I don't know it." And then he said, "Can you sing it?" And so I sang a song to him. And then he just looked at me like afterwards for like what felt like about 15 seconds, but was probably only about 3. And we were like, "Very good," and just walked off. But my mate was filming it, and he was like, the video's so funny because the camera's shaking because he's laughing so much.
He's gone.
Because he can't believe it, because the way he just looks at me like deadpan as I'm like, but on this video I get like really into it. I'm like singing it like this, you know what I mean, and stuff like that. So that was madly embarrassing.
That's cool.
But also a funny story. I also once I was doing something on 5 Live with Kelly Dalglish, and I was talking about. So I sit in what used to be called the Centenary stand, but it's now called the Sir Kelly Dalglish stand. So I was talking about going the game, and I said, "Oh yeah," and I sit in the upper Centenary stand, and she just sort of looked at me and smiled, and I was like, "Sorry, the upper Kelly Dalglish stand," and it was like that. And she obviously wasn't bothered, but as a general rule, I think if a stand is named after someone and you're speaking to a family member of that person, then you should probably call it by that name. But she just thought it was funny.
Yeah, she'd be cool with that, wouldn't she?
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. So I think we're all quite safe, and they're quite good stories. So Skillshare, John, we do a Skillshare where we share a skill. And some of them have been out to get red wine out of carpets and things like that. Is there a Skillshare to do with podcasting, interviewing, or anything like that?
I'm not sure, really. I think I did a lot of work on sort of presentation skills when I was working, and it's really sort of helped me. And I always say as well, I'm not just saying this because I'm with you guys, but BNI was fantastic for me in terms of my development. I was the baby. I was the youngest when I sort of started, and going along and meeting all these sorts of impressive people who had their own businesses and all this, and it, having to stand up and talk every week, and I think as well, speaking for 60 seconds is both daunting but also a bit of a challenge, because the more confident you get, actually it gets a bit harder, because you more and more you want to fit in, and so I think it helped me in terms of being concise, and I think being in terms of I think being able to sell yourself, within that short period of time is really good, because that's all really you get in the real world, isn't it? If you're in a bar and someone asks you what you do, and then you start banging on for ages, they go off and do something else, would they? So I think I learned a lot from BNI in terms of how to present, how to sort of engage with people, how to speak to lots of different people as well, and I think that's a skill I've hopefully got as well. So whenever I'm doing interviews now, I always feel like I can get on a level, with people, and that's not necessarily mean because all our interviews aren't necessarily footballers or whatever. It can be just people who've got interesting stories to sell, and some of my favorite ones have been people who people don't sort of know at all, really. And so I think finding a way of finding common ground with someone quite quickly and making people feel that you trust them and comfortable with you, I think is a really important skill for what I do, and I think something that I learned in my professional life, really, that I was then able to take into what I'm doing now.
Amazing. Brilliant. So shout out to the grown-ups, any grown-ups who've done amazing things. So San, have you got any grown-ups that have done amazing things?
Yes, I'd like to shout out to all the A&E department in the Royal who have to work right through the night, and they must be exhausted making important decisions, who came into their own this week with my lads. So I was very impressed with them all. So shout out to everyone at the Royal Liverpool Hospital in the A&E department.
Brilliant.
What about you?
Me or John?
You, Helen.
Me first. So grown-ups wise this week, I want to shout out. So Ian last week, so he works and he was off on the Wednesday, and we'd taken Lou and we'd set it up in St John Rigby. He came along on his day off to help set it all up and build it with me and stuff like that, which is like a really kind thing to do. And love the fact that he could come and do a dead cool thing on his day off, even though it was sort of like a little bit working, but it's like so far removed from his actual working week. So he absolutely loved it. Who else has done amazing things grown-ups wise this week? I don't know.
There's so much. We've got all kinds going on.
Yeah.
We've got some visitors. I've got the next 2 weeks guests of people who've both done sort of loads of cool stuff quite recently, and that for charity as well, which is cool. And what about you, John? Have you got any shout outs to any grown-ups?
Do you know what? I just want to say a massive well done to whoever it was who put those fantastic gigs on at the Pier Head, because, you know, at the moment, doing live events is so difficult with the way the world is and things like that. And there's so much more to think about. But I think there was 4 or 5 nights, you know, very different. Now Rogers was on one night, wasn't he? Then there was Camel Fat, which a few of the sort of our younger team sort of went along to on the Friday, but we overlooked that, so could see how much work had gone to build in it and all that, and it just looked brilliant as well. And you know, as we're all proud Scousers, aren't we? And when you see those pictures, you know, going all around the world of the Pier Head, and it looks beautiful, and there's these big gigs, and there's all these people just having an amazing time, and it looks really safe, and it looks incredible. I just think it's a wonderful thing for all those people who got to go and have a dance and have a brilliant time and enjoy themselves. But also, you know, when those pictures are then shared, you know, around the world on social media of the city looking amazing, I think it's a fantastic thing. So I don't know. So I don't know who put those gigs on.
I feel terrible, John, because you just thanked all the people in for all that organisation, and I neglected to thank, because I went to a big event on Saturday night, a big fundraising that was sort of the hotel change, and they had to sort of do it in 7 weeks. And I went to a gala dinner for the Hour for Others that bought the ticket 2 years ago, and it got postponed. And we had people coming in and dancing, they had performers, and the effort that went on, and there were loads of volunteers doing fundraising, and it was what they raised. I'm sure they raised about £29,000 on the night.
Wow.
Phenomenal. And so I neglected to thank all of them, which was terrible, really. So well done.
And I've just remembered, I wanted to give a shout out to Di Cannon, right? Because she's just amazing. She goes to Spain for the weekend, right? Goes off to Mallorca and then does the coolest thing ever. Yeah. Just turns around and goes, I'm having a ball. I'm going to change my flight. So she's like, I'm having a ball. And just changes her flight and stays for like a week. And I thought, so she's look. And I thought, that is just boss. So well done to Di Cannon. You're my shout out for this.
Brilliant.
Boss like that, yeah. Fantastic. So we've only got 2 minutes left. Okay. So a positive challenge. John, can you give a positive challenge to anybody? So we've had like smile at a stranger. What else have we had? Bake a cake for a neighbour. Is there something that people can just do, like a little positive thing to spread the love with everybody?
I don't know about spread the love, but I always think, you know, do something that scares you a little bit. So try and do something that scares you a little bit over the next week is a really sort of positive, challenging thing to do, because when you've done it, it'll feel like a real sense of accomplishment, I feel. So hopefully that's okay for you, Helen.
I love that. Yeah. A bit like you did, San, when you went on your kayaking, wasn't it? What do you always say to everybody? Your comfort zone, your failure zone. And Marty sang when she went, I'm not going on that. He used it back on you, didn't he?
He said, hang on a minute, you always say you can't. And I was like, such a brilliant thing. I'm quite phobic in water, and I canoed all around the Albert Dock, and Alex Warner came with me, thank God. And you would have, and as you said, you would have if she hadn't, but it was good you didn't have to, because you got to do all the paddle boarding, which you loved.
I did.
It was evening, it was warm, the sun was shining, and I went all around the Albert Dock in a canoe. And it was Martin's, because I love it there. Martin said, when you're on the water, you see it differently, the aspect. Oh, it was the best thing ever. That's like achievement of this year for me. I was so happy doing it. It was brilliant.
Yeah, it was.
Amazing,
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
So I want to say a massive, massive thank you, John, for giving your time up. We know you're dead busy, and you know, to give your time up to us is amazing. I want to say a massive, massive thank you to you, San, as always. And John, do you have a mantra that you live by? We've got like 20-ish seconds to do the closing quote. Something that you live your life by. Do you have something like that?
No, just say yes to things, enjoy yourself, and yeah, just try and remember, as I say, when you started and all the people that helped you along the way, and if you could do the same for other people, isn't that a wonderful way to live your life?
Amazing. Yeah. And we're going to close on that because that was just dead cool, wasn't it? So thank you, everybody, and we'll see you all next week.
Thank you.